Hi guys, hi everybody. I'm super excited for today's webinar because it's another webinar we are doing with 500 startups. This ongoing collaboration with 500 startups started last year, and this is our third webinar already, and it's been a success since the first webinar. I'm super excited to speak about the very challenging topic, actually, D2C, building a D2C brand. Direct to consumer is it sounds easy, but it's definitely not an easy thing to build. And many large companies, even that try to build D2C brands, fail. And today we have a bright entrepreneur that graduated from 500 startups, and she built a successful, amazing company going through challenges and achieving great success. And I'll let my partner Kate to introduce her. I have a few words about the community who are first time on our webinar. 500 startups and Go Global are partnering with one simple mindset. We want entrepreneurship to spread around the world. We truly believe that everyone should have equal access to basic knowledge of how to start global companies, access to network, and access to opportunities to raise capital. And us and 500, we are sharing these values. Or to become a member of Go Global World, you just need to go on our website, goglobal.world, or find us on all social media like Facebook, Telegram, LinkedIn, and just subscribe. I'll share the links on Zoom chat, and you guys will be able to actually enter, subscribe, and so on. And on this note, I would like to pass the word to Kate. Kate, please tell us a few words about 500, and please give us some more information about Susana. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, evening, whatever time zone you're at. I'm Kate, and I'm part of the investment team at 500 Startups, and we are super excited to have this event today. Super excited to introduce amazing Susana to you. Just before I introduce our incredible speaker, would love to mention a few words about 500 in case someone doesn't know. 500 Startups is a venture firm and business accelerator. We support and invest in founders around the world. We've been on the market for over 10 years now, invested in over 2,500 companies in over 70 countries around the globe. In our portfolio, we have 22 unicorns as of the end of last year, and 109 centaurs, just in case it's the companies with valuation over 100 million. We typically invest in early stage, pre-seed, seed stage companies, industry agnostic and geo agnostic. And it's been a year now since we changed our format. So right now we have rolling basis acceptance. So our applications are open all year round. If you're interested, feel free to apply. We would love to see international companies, and applications are open at 500.co. All right, I see messages coming in. Greetings from Ukraine. Thank you, guys. I'm actually from Ukraine, so happy to see Fox join in from Ukraine as well. And now would love, with pleasure, to introduce our today's speaker, Susana. Susana is the CEO and founder of Pluto. Pluto is a first and only custom sleep pillow that is being crafted. Basically, I can tell based on my experience, because I have Pluto. I sleep on a Pluto pillow every night, and honestly, it's changed my life in terms of sleeping. So of course, Susana will be best to introduce her company. Just quickly, Pluto is a D2C product. It's a custom pillow that is being generated online based on your preferences. So you fill out the application form, answer the questions about your preferences, and you have a custom pillow shipped to you. Susana went through our program, I believe, a year ago. So she's now our amazing 500 alumni. Before I pass the mic to Susana, I just wanted to mention a quick interesting facts about Susana and Pluto. So they actually grew 10x after since they joined 500 Startups program, and they were able to triple. Basically, their growth triple digit every single year since they launched. And they were able to have over 500 articles, press articles, without using any PR firms. So they were listed in Forbes, Business Insider, Wall Street Journal, and many, many others. And one extra bonus, I want to mention that Susana is a really, really impressive presenter. You'll see it today. But I remember when she first joined, typically on our welcome night, we ask founders to pitch their company so we can record them and then show it to them at the end of the program to kind of see the difference. And when Susana went on stage, we were like, oh my God, she doesn't need to go through the program. She's already so amazing. That being said, Susana, please introduce yourself, tell us about Pluto, tell us about what inspired you to launch and start Pluto, and what was your original goal with it?
Yeah, no pressure. That was a great intro. So before I kind of jump into it and introduce myself, I just want to share that like 500 has really impacted our business and personally my life. So I hope to bring some of that 500 magic to our conversation today. And so quickly, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pluto, like Kate said. We are the first and only custom sleep pillow that's crafted to your body stats, how you sleep, and what you like. We launched in mid-2018, and we're based out in Los Angeles, California. And we really started the company from more of a personal pain point. I had started experiencing really bad neck pain in 2017, and kind of going through the point where, you know, I love cars and I love to drive, and to the point where I couldn't turn my neck while driving. That was when I was like, I have to, you know, solve this problem. I went to a physical therapist, and that was the first time I learned how important a pillow can be to proper neck alignment. And then at the time, it's like, you know, you go to these stores like Bed Bath & Beyond, and you see walls of pillows, and you're like, which one is good for me? You're like squeezing pillows through dirty plastic bags, and you take it home, and it's completely not like what you felt in stores. Or you go on Amazon, there's like 80,000 pillows on Amazon. Like, what makes one different from another in terms of like, why is one side sleeper pillow different from another? So kind of, you know, long story short, there were so many mattress companies launching, yet pillows were such an afterthought. Yet it's also a product that every single person needs. And so we were thinking, how can we, you know, take a more scientific, data-driven approach to this purchasing experience and like 10x the experience, 10x the materials that have been traditionally used, and start a company. And so I talked to my co-founder, Kevin, about it at the time, and we launched in 10 months. We are here in our facility. Next to this wall is where we create all pillows to order. We ship across the US. And yeah, ever since then, we joined 500, and we've been growing ever since. So.
Wonderful.
That is an exciting story. I mean, really, really interesting. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, before we continue, everyone is already, some people already asking questions. Please ask these questions in the Q&A section. And anyone who wants to actually verbally ask the question, just raise your hand, and we'll let you speak after we finish this main part. And everyone who is on live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media, including Clubhouse, you can write your questions, and there we will read them on Clubhouse. Raise your hand, we'll let you speak. And let's continue.
Yeah, just a quick reminder, actually, that thank you, Daniel. Ask your questions, and then at the end, Susana has some bonus giveaways. She'll choose one question that kind of not kind of was the closest and the one that caught her eye and attention the most, she will choose that question, and she prepared something that she'll announce at the end of our event. So feel free to actively start asking questions. All right. Yeah, so let's start talking about, you know, since we are talking about D2C, two main parts, right? I would like to start with talking about brand, right? Because D2C, I believe, like two kind of, and you tell us, of course, but two main things is basically brand and product, right? So let's start with brand. Like, what does it take to actually build a strong D2C brand? What are some of the fundamentals probably for D2C business in general?
Yeah, so like for us, it was a lot about, in the beginning, when you think about brand, right, it's more than like a logo or a font or a gradient background. It's really like getting very clear on what your values are and why you started the company. Like for me, it started from a personal pain point, and I was just creating a product experience that I myself would buy. So I was the target customer. And so we have to really think about how we can marry and combine the functional with the emotional part of the brand. And so for us, the brand was all about like really creating and fostering a human connection with the customer. Like, how does this brand make me feel? Am I super pumped to share it over dinner with my family and friends? And kind of that combined with having a great product, like that's just, your product has to live up to the table stakes of actually like performing to the brand. And so that combined with like defensibility has been like the most important part for us.
Got it. And for a product, speaking of product, right? How you define the great product? Like, what are the key characteristics for the good, really good quality product?
It is really, for me, there are a couple of things. It's solving a key problem. So for us, in the beginning, it's like we don't really need another pillow like to throw into the 80,001 pillow, right? We want to be something that's like category defining, and it's starting off with, you know, a product again that really delivers and has a broad appeal. So for us, it was really like, how do you see that the product is taking off? I'm a huge believer in word of mouth and garnering like referrals and recommendations and that organic growth. And then, is this something that, again, like maybe does press want to write about it? Is there an interesting angle here that you want to share? And it's really like, you know, does your product really have what it takes to be a key differentiator in the space?
Absolutely.
All right. I have another one about customer development. So how to run customer development, especially in the remote world that we live in now. And one of the key element of our community is that our entrepreneurs here are from around the world, and most of them are targeting like Western countries, specifically United States. And now during COVID time, of course, nobody, almost no one can travel and meet the customers personally. I'm sure even being in the United States, this is an issue. So how would you do this customer development remotely? Please give us some practical insights, if you may.
Yes. So you have to start off with like who you feel initially, like who your customer is. And then for us, like we weren't really, you know, going, you know, at that time, like we were doing some interviews with customers, but right now, definitely with COVID, it's a little different. But then like having a pulse on who your customer is, and then cultural relevancy around that, and then tailoring your message to that. So I would feel like right now there's a couple of general tips. One is like you could create a landing page of exactly what you're, you know, creating, and like try to garner these like first couple of like email addresses and like reach out and like talk to them as you're developing your product. And then, or you could start off with like, during 500, we were running different like Facebook and Instagram ads, just super scrappily, and seeing like who responds to it. And then kind of going from there, identifying who that target key first initial early adopter is. So I would say that that's definitely kind of difficult too, depending on like what your product is, what your brand is, and who your audience is. There are some creative out of the box ways that you could definitely, try and get those first couple of customers and first 10 sales even, right?
Yeah, are there any tools you can recommend like for, reaching out to customers, for customers interviews, for example, maybe like anything comes to your mind, so entrepreneur can like Google and find something that they can use, or maybe like specific, like simple tools?
We did it really rough at the time. Like we just created like this landing page with like exactly what we were creating, and we got those emails and we reached out cold to these people who first initially signed up, who were excited to be like, what is this product that you guys are launching? And just talking to them one-on-one. And now it's so easy through Zoom. And then you can also, use tools like Lunch Club even to like talk to other people who may be in that demographic or psychograph of your customer target audience, and share a little bit about what you're developing. Yeah, there's really no kind of one tool or one specific right answer. But
this is actually a great answer about landing page, and then you collected customer information. One of the outcome for me out of this question, that reaching out customers one by one is actually your competitive advantage, because you're already speaking with your customer. Just spend your time with them because they got interested with your product. Right? I mean, this is your own practical case. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely starting with, and that's one of the things, like it's for us, it was such a slow burn in the beginning. It wasn't easy, and we were bootstrapped for the first year plus. And so like that was like, really, you had to quickly find out like what works for your business. And it was doing things that wasn't necessarily scalable in the beginning, but like kind of waiting, like to see if there's like that product market fit, and then like doing things the super hard way, which is like talking to customers. And once you reach a certain point, I'm trying to think like when that was, but then it definitely was like, oh, like, this is working out. But it was rough in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah. And like, let's dig in a bit more. So now you have your brand, you have your beautiful product, you have your wait list, you reached out to customers, right? Now let's talk a bit more about marketing. Are there any specific strategies, like what worked for you in your case? Did you have to do any A/B testing, in terms of finding the right marketing strategy that works for you, for your product, for your brand?
We A/B tested so much, especially not even in the beginning, but when we were in 500. And that was one of the things that 500 was so helpful for us. And we tested like everything from like our website colors. So just in the beginning, like we never worked with like any agency or anybody to like form the site itself. Like it was just me and my co-founder who created kind of the site and the design of the packaging and the product and everything. And so like we had a lot to test. And so one of the things is like we tested our hero image. We tested different header text on our website to see like which would convert more. And then kind of really were data driven that way to see like how people, when they went through the site, how they kind of navigated. And then we tested everything from like different ad copies during our time at 500, kind of putting a little bit of money into like different, Google keywords. And to this day, we also keep testing it out. And so I would say like, it's very important to A/B test in the beginning and continue to do so even as you scale. And as you have like a bigger sample size of more customers coming to your site, you'll see more clearly kind of what works best for your brand and product.
Yeah. But in the end of the day, winning the hearts and minds of customers, or like, fostering customers' obsession is super important. How do you win your customers, like their minds, so they select your product? What makes you so special, unique for them?
Yeah, it's definitely combining, again, a really great product experience with like customer service and experience, going above and beyond with that. And then really weaving kind of the storytelling even of why we started and what problems we're solving, because like we may not be the pillow for everyone, right? But it's like then who are we kind of creating this product for? And then it's all about like cultural relevancy. So again, like marrying or combining that like emotional element of the brand with a great product and cultural relevancy, and building a great product that someone would want to share. So like on social media, we respond to every single comment, question, and we respond to all emails within an hour, 2 hours max. And like really kind of encouraging our customers to share their experience on social media, ways with like unpackaging or the way that we talk to them. And so kind of, speeding up, optimizing that flywheel.
I will summarize customer experience. You ask customers to share their experience, and they use social media. They can find you easily. But one of the main thing I think you briefly mentioned is the like product validation or market validation. So I guess to win, you've done something so they accepted this product as a wow. So what was the process in terms of winning the hearts and minds? Like, did you build the product and they were like wow right away, or you had some interactions, to get to this wow effect? What was the process?
So just going back to like the beginning and early days, when we started the company and we built the site, I was super naive, and we built a really cool product and site. And now all the customers will come and flood in. And there were weeks where it was definitely completely crickets. So we didn't even have like customers to like talk to or build off of, even if we had that wait list. And so like that go-to market strategy in the beginning is really important. And then what happened from there is like I started reaching out to press. So different people who, wrote about direct consumer products or wrote about something in a sleep space. And then after scoring those first articles, I remember my first one was like Business Insider. That was how we got our, first real type of initial customers. And from there, in the beginning, just a little bit of background. After you take the questionnaire on our side, we can create over 35 variations of pillows that feel really different from one another. But in the beginning, it was only 25 variations. And so we went through this process of like when customers ordered, we reached out right away. And then after 2 weeks and say, hey, how was your experience? Like, I'm the CEO. I'd love to learn more about how, your pillow was. How did you feel about the questionnaire process? Because here's how it works now. And then from their feedback, actually listening to them and then updating, our product and process as we went along, and actually sharing these updates with them as well. Like, hey, here's what we've done since then. Really involving them in the process was important to us. And I felt like because of that, they, the person who, I remember our very first customer, his name was Aldrin. And he still talks to us to this very day, and is very like a true advocate of our brand. So identifying later on, like, who are your advocates? We wouldn't even say like they're influencers. It's just like each customer like has the ability to share with like their like 10 closest people. And that has been like our number one driver, almost like, 1 in every 4 customers now come from an existing customer referral.
Amazing. And how much time do you think it took for you to understand, like, okay, I kind of know that customers love our product now?
I think it took a year. I would say it took a year. Yeah. Because in the beginning it was like, we were really happy when we got like 3 or 4 orders, and then like kind of there was this point after, especially actually after 500, where we had to completely shut down all of our advertising and everything just because of COVID. And we were kind of uncertain about how customers would react to purchasing, this isn't a cheap, product, it's pretty expensive. And so at that time, when we shut down all marketing and we had to shut down our facility here because of COVID, we still saw the same amount of orders come in. And that was when like I kind of knew like, wow, like, that's not something that we have to really depend on. We're okay on FOSS and based off of like our current customers sharing about us. Yeah.
Maybe like that's a good kind of segue to talk about pandemic for D2C products, right? Like any strategy, like what happened basically, it slowed down all the processes for you, production, operations, orders probably, or not. Like I would love to hear your story. What happened during pandemic, and are there any tools, advice you would give to the audience, especially to the founders who build their D2C products, how to navigate during this remote times of pandemic?
Yeah, I think like last year they were saying that e-commerce was up 42%. So it was a huge boom. And because of that, there were problems just all throughout, whether it was like now there's like less cardboard for packaging. And there were delays on getting like just packaging material. And then if you have some component, for us, one of the components came from Asia, for instance, like that was completely, shut down and everything. Here in the US, like even the weather this last month, right, in Texas, we have some plants that produced our foam cores. They had to completely shut down. So in that case, we're still kind of working through these like inventory restraints that pop up here and there just because of the circumstances. But it's really like forecasting out way even more than expected and like putting that cushion in between and for these unexpectancies. For us, we've been really lucky. I think since the pandemic hit, there's been this hyper focus on like comfort and sleep. You're spending more time at home. So like particularly the home categories have been doing really well. And we haven't, like people don't really want to go out right now and like touch and feel pillows. So like we want to be the best way to buy a pillow online. So we haven't seen a slowdown at all. In fact, we still, like had triple-digit growth from 2019. So we've been really lucky in that regard for sure.
Got it. Cool. And yeah, let's talk about expensive part about unit economics. So as you said, it is expensive, right? To kind of find your product market fit, to find the right marketing campaigns. Like talk a bit about unit economics for D2C businesses, like how to identify them, how much time did it take for you, what tools did you use or strategies?
Yeah, for us, it was, you have to figure out how often people buy your product. So there are some brands that are subscription based, right? So you don't necessarily have to make money on the first purchase. For us, you don't replace your pillow that often. So you're supposed to replace it every 12 to 18 months. That is kind of what's recommended, but it's not like a lot of other direct consumer brands where it's more, like maybe they buy every month or 2 months. So figure out how often people buy your product because like your unit economics has to work out. As for us, we have to make money on the first sale. And so you have to see like what is like the healthiest margin you can build in order to like build in, that marketing. It's so like going back to our mistake, right? Even if you have like, we didn't have a lot of venture capital to start off with or anything like that at all. So we had to just like build a healthy business from the get-go. It's so dangerous to start low on pricing, feel like you have a business, and then realize you don't have enough money to pay the bills and that you actually don't have product market fit at a higher price where you have to survive. So really figuring that out and building that margin, it's better to start a little higher and then adjust accordingly from then. For me, one of the mistakes I made in the beginning was I priced too low in the beginning, and it was so hard to kind of come back up. And it was actually through 500 that I realized that you guys have been telling me, for instance, that like you're pricing it way too low, and you have to like be able to, you know, build in that in order to like, you know, direct to consumer. One of the things, it's like there's economies of scale as you grow, as you can buy more materials and things like that, but it doesn't scale quite like SaaS. With growth and with more, you know, more products, you have to pay more rent for more space. You have to buy more inventory. You have to have more people in operations. So as long, you have to really build in that healthy margin, and it's best to do it from the get-go.
Yep.
Because like your unit economics has to.
Oh, I think there is some delay. Daniel?
All right. So my question is about sales. And you know, it's easy to speak about sales when you have already like funding and the team and everything. But what about first 10 sales? How did you do it? First 10 sales? What were the challenges and how you succeeded?
Yeah, we had a lot of challenges around that. As I mentioned, we didn't really have a strong go-to-market strategy in the beginning. So for us, what we did was we just relied on press in the beginning. So pitching to different journalists and seeing if like we can get some initial customers that way. So I would say like it depends on your audience and brand and product. But in the beginning, if you can like, you know, start garnering that wait list of people who would actually buy, like through like some Facebook ads and, you know, that landing page I talked about. And then that, you know, really starting off like in the beginning, even building some of that SEO in it. I would say that to get your first 10 sales, our first 10 sales took a while. So I think like it was only like we could only go uphill from there. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
and
I know, if possible.
yeah. I know a lot of our attendees, they're based in different countries, right? But many of them strategically, potentially considering to go and start selling in the US market, not necessarily doing it right at the moment. So any tips on like how to sell in the US, how to launch this process, and even like launch your product and business in the US?
Yeah. That's something kind of we touched on in the beginning too, but it's like having a pulse on the things that are happening here, and depending on your customer, what is the consumer behavior here of the target audience that you feel are the first ones to buy your product, tailor messaging around that. And then trying to like, you know, build in that cultural relevancy. But in the beginning, it's like for us also, like once you do launch, then you have to like start reiterating as fast as possible too, depending on like how people perceive your product, like how traction is going. But yeah, I would say like in the beginning, you know, do your best to like tailor your message, know your audience, and then once you do launch, like quickly reiterate from there, because I think a lot of things could change that you may not, you know, expect in the beginning.
Any specifics like you learned on your example for D2C products and US customers, like maybe something that wouldn't work in other countries or vice versa?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a hard one, because let's see, like for instance, like there are some countries that maybe like there are people who may not really care so much about like why are you creating a custom pillow, so it may not be relevant for another place, where like for here, and we've been seeing like this growth and this focus on sleep, right? And then like how better sleep means like the best me that I can perform the next day. And so like there's been that really intense focus here, which is like what helped us be able to like launch her product and find that product market fit here. So having a pulse on that.
Yeah. In terms of product market fit, it's clear, but now, especially at 2020 and 2021, we can see that more and more companies, early stage companies, are building communities around their brands. So where you stand with communities? Do you have your own community? And should you have? And how did you do this? How did you select people? Who would you select as your ambassadors, for example, and why?
Yeah, our key customers, like the ones that are our advocates, are part of our community. And I think like this word is kind of really heavily loaded in that people think like just because like, you know, people talk to you on, leave a lot of comments in your social media and things like that's like all community, and that's part of it too. But it's more of like who are the people who, you know, you're on the same side on. And so like you're building your brand about like what we talked about earlier, like the same values of why we started, right? Like we're not actually the right pillow for everybody, but this is the reason why we started. And then like fostering that connection with those first few customers and early advocates. You have to be really great at like telling your story and, you know, being on the same side with consumers around that. We don't have like, you know, per se like a blog or anything like that, or we don't involve, you know, people who talk about their pillows all day. But for us, it's like we were able to create something where like people do want to share us around like the dinner table and things like, hey, like, have you heard about this pillow company? And like, and it's all about because like we talk to customers the way that, you know, we're on the same side as them. So through all channels consistently. So, you know, obviously Facebook, Instagram, email, and all of that. Yeah, I would say that, but we're also still working on creating that community around our product, especially we're just one product now. So it's a little bit hard. And like this year we have more products launching, which would really help elevate our brand even more.
So you would say it's critical to have a strong community around your...
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. Yes.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. In terms of first steps to the market, everyone never heard of your name or your team or yourself in most of the cases. And once you have supporters around you at early stage, when everybody's questioning, like, is it really working? Is it really good? Does it worth to pay so much money? I mean, so many questions, and you building this trust on the first steps. Absolutely agree that having community around your brand is absolutely another strategic step, like even like sales and marketing strategic step. I would call it like that.
Yeah, for us, it was really important for us to like create a great product from the get-go first, and then like, you know, seeing who our customers, you know, really truly are after we launched, and then like just like going straight to like really targeting more folks like them. And you know, one of the pitfalls is like, you know, it takes time. It takes a lot of time for direct-to-consumer companies to actually build a brand and actually build trust with their customers. So that's kind of one of the hard things about direct-to-consumer too.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a few more questions before we open it up to the audience to ask their questions. So just a reminder for everyone who joined us today, feel free to ask your questions. You can either type them in the group chat, or you can even unmute yourself and ask your question live. And then Susana actually has something prepared for you. So at the end of our talk, she'll choose one person who asked, in her opinion, the best question, and she has prepared something for that person. So please be active and start asking your questions. And I kind of want to switch from talking about the product and brand to kind of entrepreneurial part of fundraising, right? Especially fundraising for D2C businesses, right? Because in a way, like here in D2C businesses, it's so important to show, like, you know, that customers love your product and you have significant traction before investors actually will believe, like, okay, this is something we want to invest. This is venture backable business, right? Because there are so many D2C products, and it's very easy to kind of miss it and kind of identify whether it's lifestyle business versus venture backable business, right? Tell us your story. Like, how was fundraising process for you? Have you started raising your capital like right when you launched or even before? Was it challenging for you? How did you approach that process?
Yeah, for us, we definitely bootstrapped for the first, year of our business, just trying to see if we have a business here. It was important for us to do that before we even wanted to, leverage venture capital in that way. I would say like there's nothing wrong with having a lifestyle business. I feel like that word is also kind of, used in a certain way, but it's probably best for some products. But the thing is you have to have a big market, right? What investors are looking for, you have to have a big market, broad appeal. There's got to be something in terms of like the brand traction. So one of the things that you talked about with us before, Kate, was that there was a great product and that traction. Like you have to be able to show that traction, and you have to be like, how are you defensible then? We have, for us, it's like we have a patent around the way that we create our pillows as well as the process, but it's also combining that with like what's even harder to replicate. It's not only just the process, but it's the brand that you're ultimately going to create as well. So again, combining that functional and emotional element of this direct consumer business is so important. There's also this new type of like direct consumer wave, right? Like we've seen a lot of direct consumer companies raise a lot of money and then kind of fizzle out. And because of that, the media has been really showing these stories more, and there haven't been like exciting exits really like you see in SaaS for direct consumer companies. So there's this thing that's not super talked about where there are a lot of scrappier brands who started off bootstrapping in the beginning, not raising a bucket load of venture capital first, taking time to build that brand, that fostering that customer obsession and brand love, like we talked about, starting sometimes niche and then going more mainstream and broad, and not being super reliant on the Facebook, Instagram ads, but actually having that organic growth. So something is to be said about finding that product market fit early on and raising capital a little bit later, and being very careful about not raising it at too high of a price, because you could end up spending so many years catching up to like an inflated, private market valuation. Right now, I could share that like after we bootstrapped for a year plus, we got into 500. After that, we did the digital demo day. We were able to raise a pre-seed, and I'm hoping to share some exciting news soon, but like we're also raising our seed and we're about to close a round here. So excited to share that more.
Congrats. Yeah, excited to hear this news as well. But speaking of a little bit more on fundraising side, so you said you first started bootstrapping. Like,
Yep.
What are the strategies? Did you launch a crowdfunding campaign, or how did you bootstrap it first?
Yeah, we did not do the crowdfunding stuff at all. It depends on your product. For us, there were just a lot of like products close to us in the space who started with crowdfunding, but that didn't super deliver. So like there's that kind of stigma. We just created the site and made sure again that like our unit economics works out to start like just, we were just kind of going off of like our own cash in the beginning to start off with, and using all of our money to funnel that into like a small marketing campaign here and there and things like that. So no, it was a super slow burn. Yeah, it was hard in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned like you went to 500, and that's basically when your fundraising process started picking up the momentum. Would you recommend founders who build their D2C products and companies to apply to accelerators? Like, what was your experience going through 500? Was it helpful specifically to the company that you're building, right? Was it helpful? In what way? Was it helpful more with fundraising or growth? Share us a bit more about your experience going through Accelerator.
Yeah, we joined in November 2019, and then we graduated in March 2020. For us, it was definitely, so we are based in Los Angeles, like I mentioned, and I moved all the way to SF for the first couple of with 500 to join 500 for the next couple of months. I think accelerators are super helpful. I am biased, especially now that I'm here on this webinar, but be really clear about why you are joining. Like, what are your goals? Because it could be so easy to get distracted. For us, it was like 3 main reasons. I didn't have a network. I didn't have a network of like other founders. I guess like I need to get out more, but I did not have that network of like, who do I reach out to and like, mentors. So that's what I wanted, A. And then second is like out of the box growth tactics for the business. Like we know like there are things that like you could kind of like Google advice on like how to get started, but 500 was really the place where like from our mentors, we learned a lot about like, these cool strategies that we could use to hit our weekly growth goals like every week, right? And we were really held accountable to that. And then third is fundraising. So for sure, I didn't, know how to fundraise at all when we first joined 500. And then, that was really big on like, fostering, you guys helped us with some connections. You guys helped us like run a process. So that has all been really helpful. So be very, very clear about why you are joining and then how you're going to measure those goals as the weeks goes on.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
I have another question, and I think we are ready to wrap it up and let the audience to ask their questions. While I'm asking these questions, everyone, don't forget to like, share our streams on YouTube and Facebook, and also subscribe to us on Clubhouse and to all our social media. But I would like to finish this session with a challenging question, and I cannot avoid not asking this. I mean, I have to ask this question. It's about fuck-ups. Like, tell us the truth, where you failed. Every founder fails because you can't be an entrepreneur without your scars of entrepreneurship. I call it like that. So what are your scars? Tell us the truth, and how did you overcome them on the personal level and on the business level?
Yeah, I have so much to share. So prior to Pluto, I had some scars also because in college, I started a bamboo toilet paper company called Cora. It became a really cool company, but like it did really well. But I sold it after 2 to 3 years. But you'll see that like no matter what you start, there's no perfect company, and F-ups will happen. So put yourself in a good mental state for like when those do happen, that you can handle it. For me, so on the business side, for us, we've been pretty lucky, but like in the beginning, for sure, we priced way too low. Bootstrapping is so hard. We hired the wrong people, and it's now it's like, hire a little slower, find the right people, even like no matter the position, right? Like I feel like that's really important. Not communicating well with remote, employees too. Sometimes I feel, we've learned a lot about like along the way of like how to like be as, over communicate is better, especially in these times than to think about like, oh, like, under communicating, or did I say that clearly? So be very clear about that. I also look at like, this topic is about sustainable scalability, but I look at it also in a personal way as well, in that like when you start a company, it's just like all about the company, and you kind of start pushing away like your family, your friends, and you get very anxious, you lose track of time. And I found out, I wasn't being super present around the people that I cared about a lot. That was a big F up for me. One thing that I enjoyed a lot is like cars and music, and I completely just turned that off to focus on the business. I think sometimes it does take that in the early days to get to a level, but like be mindful of that, and that like that's not sustainable. And I am still working on that now, to be honest. It's a work in progress. But it is something that I am trying to, find ways to overcome. For me, it's like taking some time off, like on a couple of hours on a Sunday to spend time with my family and just like shut off the phone and everything. And like you have to find your ways to different ways for different people to overcome them. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It's actually, I mean, it makes it a very, personal conversation on such webinars, because when founders share this kind of experience, it's not like, about a success story. I mean, we all founders and we all fail at some point, but then what makes us successful, because we can stand up and keep going and find our own way. And it's actually great. And as an outcome out of this quick sessions of this first part we had, to me, you actually just really inspired me as a founder when you talked about your customers, how you actually personally went after each single customer and built community out of it. To me, that's it for today's webinar. As a like main outcome, I would want to take. That would be like one of the main important learning, and I want this one to be highlighted for the audience. So thanks for sharing this. It's super useful, I think.
We can also talk, more offline. I'm happy to share my email with everyone. I know we only had a couple of minutes, and sometimes I get super excited, and I'm happy to go in more details with anybody who has any questions and personally share what has worked, what has not worked for us too. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free, Susana, to write down your email here in the chat, and we'll also follow up with everyone who RSVP'd and joined this event. After all, sharing your contact information if you don't mind.
Yeah. So let's move to the questions part. So just a quick comment on what you just said, Susana. If you would like to, you don't have to even share your email, but you can actually continue chatting with the community members on our global network. So I shared with everyone our links. And so this is how founders from around the world help other founders. And this is where you guys can connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, and so on. So I think we are ready to start the questions part. Everyone in the audience on Clubhouse, on YouTube, on Facebook, and here on Zoom, please ask your questions. If you're on Zoom, please ask your questions in Q&A part, and we will read those questions to Susana. And those who would like to speak and ask a question verbally, just raise your hand and we'll let you speak. So you can speak on Clubhouse and you can speak on Zoom. Yeah, so I'll take the first question, and it's an anonymous question. How do you keep yourself from burning out? You partially answered that question.
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because we were talking about kind of unit economics and burn from a business perspective, right? But actually, let's talk about a personal one. Yeah, like especially, every founder goes through this highs and lows, and it's so easy to kind of become, overwhelmed and burn out, and lose the motivation and energy to continue, growing your business and moving forward. Any tips you personally use to prevent yourself from burning out?
Yeah, for me, everyone's really different. For me, I actually have like a toolbox of things that have kind of helped me that I write down actually, especially since COVID hit. One of the things is like, I do try to actively, like one day a week for a couple of hours, do not really focus on work and go out and actually experience like nature or do something entirely different. So I would like, watch an F1 race and completely forget about the company. I meditate every day. I think everybody does at this point, but then that has been really helpful for me. I love music, so I listen to EDM a lot. That has been really helpful in terms of like just keeping me kind of saying, like, identify what your hobbies are outside of the company, because you are more than your company at the end of the day. And so like really, and carve out time for that, because like when you do that and find ways that work for you to take care of yourself, that only makes you a better leader, and it only helps the company in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love meditating as well. I keep meditating since I become entrepreneur.
Yeah, okay. I think we have another question, and just for the audience, when you ask your questions, make sure you put your name so we know who asked that. But here someone is asking, how long or when did it feel like you found the product market fit? How did you know, basically? And when?
Yeah, it was I think it was like close to, I would say, I said like a year earlier. So like, but I would say like close to like after a couple of months, when you see press talking about you, and when you see those initial customers come in, that like you weren't really doing like forced growth on like Facebook and Instagram, but they're coming from like someone who says, I heard about you from a friend. And you know, I heard about you from a friend, someone told me about your product. It took, I would say it took about like 6 to 8 months, but I have a very high standard of like, how do you know when you have product market fit? So it could have been earlier for my co-founder, and he was like, oh, but for me, I was like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're like forcing it. And it's until people talk about you online, until I saw the stat about like, oh, like one in every 4 to 5 are customer referrals. That's when I knew. Took a couple months.
Perfect. All right, I see the next question here. Actually, a great question we didn't talk about today. How did you find your suppliers and manufacturers, and where they are, maybe?
Yeah, so so our product is built on 2 kind of main components. We all know there's like memory foam type pillows, there's like hotel plush types, and then we combine both of these to create different variations. For us, for like the inner core portion, I actually looked at a ton of existing foam product suppliers in the US. There's actually only a few, but the way I did was I bought so many pillows, because I was actually testing pillows for my own. So I had to return like 7 different pillows before finding the right one. But looking at even like the tag, and then like seeing like the number, like the manufacturer's number, and looking online and seeing like, okay, like this number, what does it mean? And then finding those manufacturers and actually like calling them and telling them about like what you're trying to create. And then like really then like kind of having them invest in like your vision and your idea, because in the beginning it's like, why would I supply like a couple products to this like one person? Like it doesn't make sense. And so like really trying to have them buy into your idea. If like for us, the other component that I talked about is like the fibers, where like we would have to go like overseas and stuff. And for that, like even for the bamboo toilet paper before, like what I did was I connected with a bunch of people on like different, you know, there's like Alibaba and there's all these sites, and then like you would then just kind of actually cold email all of these and talk to each one to see what fits for your business. So yeah.
So let's see other platforms if you have any questions. Everyone on Clubhouse, you guys can raise your hand and we can let you speak. And on Zoom, you guys also can raise your hand and we can let you speak. We have one question from Igor Shlonsky. How long does it take for a customer consumer? How long does it take for a consumer product to get noticed? And please give some example.
How long does it take for it to get noticed? So it depends what you do. For us, it took 2 months or so, just because like I was pitching to press. So that was when you start getting one article, it's easier to get like 2 or 3 or 4 afterwards, because there's like this like new and upcoming thing, right? So like that was when it took about like 2 months for people to like get the buzz and like realize who we are. But I could share those articles that were written about us in the beginning. But yeah, it 2 months.
Right. In my opinion, I would just add, because I've seen like thousands of entrepreneurs, I think there is a magic number, 6 months. when you work hard, like, I mean, really hard, and nothing is happening. And after 6 months, all of a sudden, like, you see the results that people actually go after you, and you don't really understand, like, why they're going after you. Were doing so much work for 6 months and nobody responding to you, or like ignoring you, and all of a sudden you're not doing much, and then and people reaching out with a lot of interest. That's I'm witnessing in many companies, including my own ones. And so my own answer to this is just keep doing what you do for 6 months hard, then you'll see the results.
Yeah, there's a tipping point, right? Where like that sort of like starts to happen. And then like, you just got to have that resiliency throughout in the beginning, especially in direct to consumer.
Yeah, it's a kind of hidden market test for yourself as a founder.
Yeah, right.
I see another question from Gina Renee. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Did you experience imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you deal with it?
110% yes. I'm experiencing it right now to this day. I think like there's always going to be, especially for, I think like for female founders, there's always that really heavy kind of like, how do I know that like I could do this? And there's really not like one right answer for me. Like, I just feel like as I'm taking more and more on these challenges, and even this webinar, it's like, you know, I just telling myself that, like, you know, that belief that you have that you can do it, and like just actually doing it and like proving it to yourself has been like for me really helpful. But honestly, like to this day, I still experience it, and like really, I just want to share that, like, you know, if I could do this or what I've even done so far, anyone can. Yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah,
I think we have more questions, but I would I think it's time to wrap it up, and I think you guys can continue asking questions, Susana, on our global chats on Facebook, Telegram, and LinkedIn. Susana, thank you so much for your excellent talk. And before we finish this talk, I would like you and Kate, you guys think of your finals, words of wisdom, or the way you want to wrap this session up. And before you do this, I'll show a few slides to the audience so people will be aware of our upcoming events, if you guys don't mind. Just give
Absolutely. And I just wanted to kind of read what Gina wrote here. She said, thank you so much for your answers, Susana. Great talk, really informative. So thank you. And yeah, I think after that, we also we'll ask Susana to choose the question she would like to give away to.
Thank you.
So
can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, now we can.
All right. So I just wanted to say a few words about the coming events. We'll have monthly founders meetup every first Friday of each month. So this month we'll have this meetup, and you can meet founders from around the world. We would have a few webinars for Russian-speaking audience. There will be venture fund managing partner of a venture fund, Fort Ross, from Silicon Valley. He will be speaking about how to get from Reno to a unicorn. Might be an interesting conversation for those who speak Russian. And also there is another Russian one, how to enter US market and get 507 place in by the rate of growth. We keep doing webinars with different countries' ecosystems, and this time we are planning to do a detailed webinar with Lithuania startup ecosystem, and we will dive into why this ecosystem is unique, and what specific advantages can bring for entrepreneurs. We already had one about Estonia, about Australia, we are planning to do about other countries, and this time might be very interesting. So feel free to join us and ask questions. Maybe this ecosystem might be useful for you. Same meetups we do in Russian every third Friday of the month. And those who would like to get to a calendar invite to our events, just scan this QR code. And if you use Eventbrite and you want to be notified about our upcoming events, just scan this QR code or just Google Go Global World on Eventbrite or other like search engines like Google, and you'll find everything related to our community. Thank you so much. I think we are ready for the winner selection and final statements.
Exciting part. Susana.
Wow. Okay. They're all like anonymous. So I would choose. I'm like,
maybe you choose the question and then the person who asked it will let us know who that was.
Yeah, I guess like the one that's I really like is like how long or when did it feel like you found product market fit? Because that's like a big conversation that I think like it depends on the brand, and I'd love to dive more into that. So happy to, you know, help with like some office hours of and also a giveaway for a Pluto pillow.
Yay!
That's awesome. So reach us out who actually so text in the chat your name and your contact, and we can reach out and give you this prize because you didn't use your name. It's anonymous attendee. So let us know your name and contact details so we can reach out. If you don't share it right now, we probably won't be able to give you the prize because it's kind of very strange. A great question, but you're not anonymous.
Let us know now if you're still here with us. Just reach out in this chat and see who that was. All right.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's wrap this up. Kate, what would be your final words of wisdom for the audience?
I wanted to give it all to Susana, but just want to thank everyone who joined us today. We really appreciate it. We would love to continue this initiative. You know, we would love to continue connecting entrepreneurs from around the world with our alumni who went through the program, 500 program, and continue, you know, building their successful companies and also sharing their personal story and any hurdles that they had to go through. We actually have our next speaker. We will be announcing them soon, but I just mark your calendar. The next event will happen on April 8th. And we will be talking about acquisitions and how to sell your company. So April 8th, see you all pretty much in a month. And thank you so much for joining. Susana, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining on this webinar. If I could be helpful in any way, please email me, Susana@plutopillow.com. And I just wanted to share that, like, you know, if I can do it, and I don't even really super live in, you know, a big city or anything, and I didn't know anyone in, you know, the founder space. If I could do it, you could totally do it, and you could do it better. This is also like, this webinar was like what worked for us, but also be very discerning about like who you get information from too, and what would actually work for your business. At the end of the day, like once you start off and you get to know your customers and your brand and products, like you know your business better than anybody else. So that's all. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. And that was Susana Saeliu and Kate Solidets and myself, Daniel Kislinsky. And this is 500 Go Global series with 500 startups alumni. And we're going to continue every single month. Stay with us and the more events will come. So the announcement will follow. Thank you so much. Great conversation and see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.